Race number one for Night Owl season 11 was absolutely electric. A bunch of incidents that started the race led to a very long and arduous event at Indianapolis. 2 weeks later, after the EWC break, we are back in South Africa at Kyalami. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Night Owl coverage here on RCI TV. I'm Jesse Lee, joined again by Ted Edwards with Stewie behind the cameras. Ted, welcome back. It feels good to be back after the summer break.
Yeah, it does feel amazing to be back. You know, we've been away for a while, haven't we, Jesse? But back here again at some different tracks. Obviously, we did the American tracks for the summer break of Night Owl, but we have come back to the rest of the world. We're here today at Kyalami, and it's good to be back going around the world.
It certainly is. This season, season 11, featuring the American tracks that were most notably dropped in the newest and most recent DLC for Assetto Corsa Competizione. But today, we're not on one of them. We are in South Africa at one of my favorite racetracks. I think a lot of people would argue this track probably in their top 10, and for a lot inside their top 5. Certainly for me, definitely inside the top 5. Dario Barzaghi had just a fantastic race 2 weeks ago. I almost said last week when we were not airing that, but Neil Pimlott did the same in the silver class. It was an incredible race that started off with high drama, settled into a groove though, but that first lap was very, very naughty by a bunch of drivers. I was told that one driver was very nearly disqualified after completing one lap. It's not unheard of. We have had that happen before, but luckily they were able to escape that fate in that race. But we obviously were not on site for that, Ted, but sounded like it was a chaotic start to season 11.
It sure does, Jesse, and well, that was what I heard was a pretty dry race, so it's going to be a question, is today going to be dry? Because I've heard from a few drivers that it's been pretty wet when they've been doing their little testing, getting their setups ready for today's race, so just have to wait and see. And you know, if the rain does come, it's going to cause more accidents, I think.
And of course, contrary to popular belief, RCI does not stand for Raining Club International. It doesn't stand for that at all, but it does rain quite a bit. There's always the threat of it. It's held off here so far. In practice, it was bone dry, but with heavy cloud cover, the same thing has been repeated here in qualifying. You know how qualifying works? 15 minutes to set the quickest laps. You start wherever you qualify, regardless of what class that you're in. The 54 Lamborghini out in front thus far, a 41.165. Timothy Flamger goes P2, exactly 1/10 off of that time. I'm going to pay attention to Vulcan. I'm not very familiar with this racing driver. They put on a show in the podium positions in race number one. I'm very curious if they're able to repeat that here today. Certainly starting off well, provisional pole.
Yeah, I have not really, I don't really know too much about this driver. I've seen them around here and there, and post a few things in the Discord and that, but I haven't really seen them around. I haven't really seen Dario either. You know, some new faces, definitely Night Owl at least. Very nice to see. But there's one person who I'm focusing on tonight, Jesse, and that's Alex Rogers. He missed round one. He had to sign out. Not sure why, but he's back tonight in that Ferrari, the 119, and want to see what he's got under his sleeve, because no, he's sort of not been doing much racing due to, you know, things in the real life, if we like. But yeah, he's back here, and if at the moment, and I'm pretty sure he can go faster, but Alex.
Oh, Alex Rogers! Big crash!
Commentator's curse hitting Rogers right there.
Almost immediately, we were on air for 5 minutes, Ted.
Oh dear, well, I think we just have to not look at him for a bit and see what he can do. But
oh, we got another car there. Unsure what McLaren that was, but huge damage.
John, a Razor. Ooh, no, I don't think it was a Razor actually. I don't know. It could be Timothy Flamger. No, he's in an Audi. I don't know who it was, but they ended up going into pit lane a bit early. But Yeah, Alex he's been out of the game for a while. Obviously, we've had a massive break for the summer, and he didn't take part in the summer night out summer break, and he didn't do any of the championships. So have to see how rusty or not rusty he is. But there's many more drivers to look at here, Jesse. As Martin Ulrich goes pole, provisional pole is a 40.6. That's almost 2/10 faster than Vulcan.
Sure did. Ulrich putting in the work. That 40.675, good enough for provisional pole. Nobody else able to best the two of them out in front right now. Dario Barzaghi does go P4 with that lap. They're currently your championship leader. Only one round of the championship has been run thus far, of course. Barzaghi leading them. I will say we saw Alex Rogers have an issue coming through Cheetah, and I've said this a million times before. It's not the hitting the outside curb that's the problem. It's the coming back over it once you've hit it and went around the curb. That's the problem. It's the tire picking up the backside of the curb. It'll spin you around. The traction difference is immense. Of course, why do people go wide in Cheetah, the penultimate turn of this racetrack? Well, simple. You can't cut it because there is a humongous sausage curb in the inside that will send you to the space station. You cannot hit that. Powell goes P6, a 41.255, as the Polish driver does a fantastic job inside the top 10 and also P1 in his class. Pimlott is P2, but he is more than half a second off of pole position for his class. Final half of qualifying here left. I guess you could argue it's final half of pole position if you want to look at it that way. Glass half full. Here's Pusina in the 908. Also had a fantastic run of it themselves and in 16th thus far. Of course, we're looking at chat as we always are here on Night Owl. And amusing message number one of the night, Ted. Was trying to watch the fight, but unfortunately couldn't get tickets. Night Owl will do. Well, that is very fantastic. I'm sorry you couldn't go to the show, but I humbled that you would accept us as an alternative. Ted and I don't really fight that much, though, I'm afraid.
Well, depends, Jesse. Depends what we argue about, eh? But yeah, there's a mixture of drivers in different classes. Like, we've got Silver and P6 right now. And quite a few of the pros down the order. We've got Daly and Pierce not set a time. We've got two more Silvers that haven't set a time either. So it's a bit jumbled here at Kyalami. We've got cars everywhere. We've got a Lambo in second. Obviously, Lamborghini and the Audi are two great cars to drive around here. Very fun, very grippy. It's like their track, I would say. Aston Martin showing them though that still hanging around. Aston Martin has got a lot better since they've done a few tweaks to it. It's to do with the turbo lag. They've made that less laggy, and yeah, it's very nice from what I've seen. Got Ferrari up there, and I've got Porsche. Stewie loves his Porsches, as we all know. Only two here, one in Pro and one in Silver, but quite high up, both in the top 10. As you can see there's a lot of Lamborghinis, which is quite recent. I've seen a lot of people using the Lambos. We haven't really seen the Lambos before the summer, Jesse. I think Lamborghini has had a little buff.
Well, of course, there has been, in our absence since we left you for the checkered flag of season 10 to now, there has been a BOP change in between that. And of course, the three American tracks on this schedule, as Victor goes P7 with a 141.637. But as I was saying, there has been a BOP change, and with the three American tracks, the Lamborghini does pretty darn well with that. I think a lot of drivers have taken that in and of themselves. I think the Lamborghini is pretty decent here as well. Do you take all that into consideration? It would make sense. If you were looking to try a different car, you might suspect the Lamborghini would be a good choice, and it might be here. You're talking about the lack of Porsche in this race. That is interesting because this track has, in recent memory, done really well for Porsche, with both of them in the top 10. No surprise to us at the moment. Thomas Pierce down in 15th place, the 131 looking to gain a little bit more ground here in the dying embers here in qualifying for round two.
Yeah, Porsche's fun around here. Me and Stewie both driven it in two separate teams. We both took one round here, and it was very fun. I really enjoyed it. Messed up a little bit, but as you know, it's what happens when you race. You make little mistakes, but yeah, the Porsche felt really, really good. Not sure what it feels like nowadays. It was a couple of months ago, but yeah, it's quite fun. And there's not many BMWs, so the no one knows what the calendar is until um, pre-qualifying like finishes when the first race comes out. Everyone knows what the first race is. That was always announced beforehand, um, and that was the same as the pre-qualifying track itself. So you didn't really need to, worry about what setup do I need for the race itself. But yeah, the whole championship gets announced after when round one sort of begins. So no one really knows what car they should choose, what is most favourable for all the tracks that are in this championship. So we have quite a mixture, and yeah, it's nice to see.
Well, here is Volkan Bakirden in the Imperial Racing 54 Lamborghini trying to take pole position away from Ulrich. It's 2/10 what he needs. He's up on his time as he comes through the Crocodiles. Only Cheetah and Ingwe left to go. Imperative to get this right. Looked a bit wide for my taste, but didn't really matter. Hit the exit perfectly. Try to swing as far as you possibly can, and that's exactly what you have. Trying to maximize the straight, the most amount of speed possible. Doesn't go too wide there. Will this be pole position retaken for Volkan? No, it will not. A 41.670, and that was not that's still the lap, or excuse me, still got a lap to beat. And I think that was actually just an outlap there, setting up for the very next lap. He's going to get 2 more shots at it, depending on how much fuel he has. Man, I keep harping on it. I'll say it again. It does feel great to be back here at Night Owl Season 11. We promised you we'd be back. We're one race late, rather unfortunately, due to scheduling conflict. But beyond that, glad to be back. And I know who's not happy to be back. It's the number 5 car. Talked about how sloppy the start of the Indianapolis race was. Well, in qualifying, it's gone wrong. So in-game chat for car number 5. Going to give them a automatic warning even before the race starts. You cannot, in RCI races, use the chat during qualifying or the race. It's deemed distracting, Ted.
Yeah, it can get very distracting. I've had it a few times racing, and they may have finished, but you still, they finished behind you because they're catching you up. You sort of like a back marker, if you like. You've still got the whole track to go around, and then, people start talking. It is very distracting, especially when you're fighting for someone to not be the last car. There's still a race going on. Doesn't matter. There's no points there, or there's no podium to get. But yeah, it can be very distracting. It's not fair. They wouldn't want someone who's just at the side of the track to be messaging in chat and putting the leaders off or whatever for the championship points. But yeah, this is why we have these rules put in place, and this is why drivers get warnings.
Here's a strange sight. Jordan Daly in a Lamborghini driving for Triple R, but that's exactly what they're doing. They will improve upon their lap. They go P7 provisionally, a 41.3 for Jordan Daly, a man who had his race come completely undone 2 weeks ago at Indianapolis, looking for a little vengeance today and might have it with a top 10 spot. You've got the number 6 Aston. That car is the number 1 silver class car. You can tell the pro and the silvers apart by what background they have on their numbers. White background is pro, silver is, well, let's be honest, silver. And those are the 2 classes we have on offer today. They're racing for their own points. There's no overall overarching championship, so they are only racing for points inside their own class. Matt Artem, second place in that silver class, and the number 7 Lamborghini of Bilski has come across the line to be one of the first cars to end their qualifying run. Ulrich out in front was one of the first cars to come back into pit lane, though. They have forfeited their right to a final lap, so they are at the mercy of everybody behind them. Timothy Flamger in P3 currently has also driven their car back to the pit lane, and so has Fonsa in the 93 Porsche in 5th place. You've got the 54 and the 8 still out there looking to make up time. You've also got the M2 liveried car of Powell in the number 6, too.
Yeah, I'm just keeping an eye on those deltas, and I was just watching Vulcan, and he does. Oh, he does improve, but he's still 2.7 one thousandths off. Is that Jesse?
It's 7/100ths
One
off of the
hundredths.
overall time, but yeah, it's very close. It was a fantastic job by Vulcan just trying to get as close as possible. If they're able to repeat that in the race, it's going to be very close. But it will be Ulrich on pole with a
Mm.
40.512, and that is good enough for pole position. 7/100ths behind them is Vulcan in the 54 Lamborghini. Third place for Flamger. Dario Barzaghi, your championship leader, back and forth. But look at those splits, the lap times, the sector times. Purple indicates the fastest of all, and no driver has a consensus of who is the quickest. In fact, Flamger not quickest in any of those, but still somehow able to take P3.
Yeah, he's just sitting around there watching everyone else do all the hard work in the different sectors. But yeah, very well good, very well done to all the drivers there. And Vulcan did go faster on that last lap, so he did close the gap, but it just wasn't enough.
Well, you also have Galinsky there, who was quickest in the silver class by some margin over his next nearest rival, Matt Artem, in second place, and Bilski will take third, but they have Neil Pimlott and Rudy Philmalter behind them. Very close quarters racing for the podium, you would assume, in the silver class. Well, we talked a little bit about race number 1. Let's show you the results of race number 1. Dario Barzaghi just had their way with the field. They have 39 points, 10 points clear of Vulcan McKierden in second place. That is a huge gap after one round, and that pretty much tells you how good Dario was at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the road course, of course. Thomas Pierce in third place, 25 points. Timothy Flamger with 21, and rounding out the top 5, John Arazer with 18 points. Olivier Kierton with 15, Victor Marcos on 13, Fonsa on 11, Anton on 9, and rounding out the top 10, Luca Bohm with 7. Outside of that, it is very close, and a bunch of drivers not scoring points, of course, but Roman Frawler, I should say, with 5 points. Apollo with 4 points. Nobody else has points. A 0, of course, means that they're still active in the championship. A dash means they have retired from the series. That was all pro. Moving on to the silver class, Neil Pimlott had a great round number 1 in the 140. They have 34 points. Callum Kiergan on 29 points. Matt Artem rounds out your top 3 with 25. Lucas Bilski with 21 points. Michelle with 20. Stephen Clark on 18. Pusina on 13. Andrea, 11 points. Kevin Boss in ninth place with appropriately 9 points. And Gal with 7 points rounds out the top 10. Outside of that, Jelinek with 5 points, Marco with 4 points. Nobody else has points as of yet after one round, but nobody, according to this, has retired from the championship in silver yet. All eyes on Powell there, of course, unable to make the first round as it would appear. And that won't hurt them, Ted, of course, because there is a drop round, just like there is in most championships we do here. So they will have to be perfect throughout the next 5 or so rounds. But still, missing round number 1, that's your mulligan. After today, we'll have a clearer picture of what the championship's going to look like. Who do you think has the best shot today?
Oh, I think Powell has a good shot in silver. Martin, I think Martin could for pro. Vulcan though, looking strong as well. Them two, both at least 2 tenths faster than the third place, which is Timmy Flamger. Obviously, fourth place is Dario as well. So apart from the two front runners, everyone from third backwards. It was very close. Powell, yes, is seventh, and Matt Artin is second place in silver, is in 10th at the minute. But there's only 2 tenths between them two. So everyone's very close. So it's very difficult. But
Well,
with go on.
I was just going to say, Jordan Daly's joined us in chat, and he reiterated something you said very early on into the telecast that a lot of the teams had experienced wet weather, and Jordan Daly, one of those that experienced or expected the wet weather. It has not come. It was dry in practice. It's been dry in qualifying, and it's dry here sitting on the grid for the race, although it is very ominous looking, especially if you look off in certain directions. These are white clouds, not the scariest really. There's no dark bottoms to them, but that doesn't mean that it will not be coming. Ted, we might be looking for an umbrella here in a little while.
Yeah, I'd like to see an umbrella, to be honest. Like I do like watch a bit of the wet weather racing, because obviously they're on dries at the minute. They've got to switch over to the wets, and we'll go over the pit requirements in a second. But not what they want to do is switch tires really, because that's a 30 seconds added on to your pit stop. That you don't really want to do, to be fair. But yeah, you on about the drop rounds? There is no drop rounds for Nile. That's the only difference.
Is there not?
There isn't for night owl. No, I don't add them in. If you miss a round, then oof, or you get some low points, or you get no points, and you need some, then oh, that's a bit of a yikes for you. But that's one thing we do with night owl is no drop rounds. So you have 2 sign outs. Then yeah, random pit requirements for each race.
That's very interesting. You know, Toto once wrote a song about it raining here. So we'll see if that comes to fruition tonight. What are the random pit requirements for tonight's race?
There is none.
I just saw that rather dark cloud just pop into view. I'm sure everyone at home
Yeah.
saw that as well. I'm not sure if that has something to do with the f stop or whatever of the camera. I'm not, or the aperture. I'm not sure, but I definitely saw that cloud come into view as we have gotten closer to the back of the grid. Quite worrying. So no pit stop requirements for those of you that may be new to Night Out, that don't know what we're on about. Most of our championships have a required 25-second pit stop and stuff like that. Sometimes it's 1 liter of fuel with no specific time required. Night Out is very different. The longest running series here on RCI TV, and it's always been like this. There's always been some kooky things that have happened in this series. And one of the, I almost call it more recent, but it's been here for a very long time. One of the interesting things we do here is the drivers do not know what pit requirement is going to be required until the day of the race. And Ted, you might know the guy who sets that up.
Me.
It is indeed Mr. Ted Edwards who sets that up. So no pit requirement. They will not come in unless they absolutely have to. You'll be filling your car presumably to the point where you can make 60 minutes plus 1 lap, however long that may be. It will definitely vary depending on what manufacturer you are behind the wheel of course. Don't expect any tire issues in the 1 hour as well. It's a straight up fight. Does anybody, without using pit strategy here from the middle of the pack, stand a chance? Maybe challenge for the win today, knowing that the only strategy is in that left and right foot.
We'll have to wait and see, and just had some information from one of the drivers having a little chit chat between themselves, and Timothy Flanagan doesn't fancy it raining, as he's apparently on a bit of a drier setup than what he's probably been used to. So he doesn't want to do that in the Audi. And apparently Alex Rogers says it's going to rain. Trust me. So if it doesn't rain, no who's playing.
Oh dear, setting up Rogers there. Rogers, you mentioned him earlier as well, Ted. It's very nice to have him back. Of course, he sort of went off of sim racing for a little while at the end of season 10. He had some life things he had to take care of, obviously, and now he obviously he always said he was going to come back whenever he sorted everything, and obviously he is, and it's nice to have him back. And because we took that break where we didn't cover the summer series on Saturday. Almost like none of us ever really left, to be honest. We all just sort of came back. But welcome back to Alex Rogers. Welcome back to sim racing. Hope that you're enjoying it. Hope it goes well for you. Well, we all know what turn 2 here can be like, and it certainly can be chaos corner. Of course, turn 1 here at Kyalami is the kink in the pit straight. Turn 2 has always been interesting to see. They'll fan out 2, 3, 4, 5 wide. How many wide do you think they're going to get today, Ted?
I want to say 5 wide down in T1, because it always does. It's such a wide. It's just such a wide straight when you get to the end. It's pretty mad, and then turning into that first left-hander is what you want to do, 5 wide. But I'll have to see how it goes. We know this track is hard to overtake. You're just basically waiting for someone to mess up, especially down into the crocodiles and cheetah. And turn 1, you can make people go wide, force them to take a different line. It's all about mind games and waiting on this track, but it is very fun to drive.
It's one of those tracks that has enjoyed a renaissance in the recent history, and they've rejuvenated this particular racetrack. It's been involved in a lot more sims as of recently, and like I said earlier, it's a driver favorite, it's a fan favorite, it's a brilliant place to watch a race, and it always seems to put on some fantastic races. A car that fires off very well a lot of the time isn't as good as, whoa, look at that Ferrari right there get off of the racetrack. That is very strange, and that damage would have counted, I'm pretty sure, had they made contact with the Armco. Barzaghi had an off in Cheetah in practice, but that was very much under pace. This is at pace speed. Here we are, the front row of the field, getting ready to go green. 1 Aston and 1 Lamborghini up front. Will they be 5 wide by the time they get down to Crowthorne? Will they sort it out before they get to the Jukeski and Sweep and Barbecue? We're about to find out. We're green for race number 2, season 11 here at the Night Out Championship. They're 3 abreast, maybe 4 abreast into the background. It's a clean getaway for the Lamborghini up front. Ted Edwards has pointed out that they were 5 wide, and at that exact point, one of the Porsches gets sideways. That turns them in front of the field. Several cars are off. The 699 heavily involved, the 740 involved, as well as both of those. They ended up nose to nose, which is never what you want as the rest of the field thunders into sunset.
Yeah, 5 wide at the back there, and that's probably what caused that accident there. I think John Eraser was one of the cars that was caught up. I could be totally wrong. No, I see on the timer screen he's at the back of the field. Also, we have a penalty out of position on the start, which was the number 5 in silver on Andrea. I would like to say that is how they say their name. Out of position at the start. There's a little box they are told to stay in, and obviously was not in that box, so it will be a drive-through. Need to serve that in before 3 laps are up, else it will get disqualified.
Well, the number 5 has had a frustrating start to the race, and all of that happened before the race started, the out of position. And of course, you will be reminded the stewards gave a warning for using chat in qualifying or the race, which is not allowed here. I actually think it's allowed almost anywhere these days, but rather besides, it's been a frustrating start to this particular race. Not for Timothy Flamger, though. They will have saw Barzaghi nearly lose it coming through Cheetah on the siding lap, but it has gone very well for Barzaghi. He's at least been able to hold on to third, but for how long? Timothy Flamger, who, if my mind is thinking correctly here, Timothy Flamger was a threat for the win the last time Night Out came here to South Africa.
Flamger's got so much faster. We see this first lap.
Here's your 5 wide.
Yeah, there's your 5 wide right there. Ooh, just a little tap and then. Oh dear.
That was the 699 and the 740 staring each other down. Rather unfortunate.
Yeah, so we'll find out from the stewards at some point who was at fault there. I think whoever touched the Porsche could be one at fault. We'll find out obviously from our lovely stewards that, and we'll have to watch this all unfold over the whole hour that we are here. And obviously they are here for practice and qualifying, as we know from the number 5 getting a little warning. But
Oh, up the inside here, looking for a move. The Ferrari is just about going to make it happen. The number 90 is somehow going to get through. That was an incredible move up into Leacock. You don't see a lot of that work. Usually, if you're able to hold the outside of Leacock, you're able to beat them down to the mine shaft and before you get to the crocodiles, but not so here.
that was a lovely move. That was didn't think the Audi would have moved over that much. As we see the pink Kerrigan, that was in the pink McLaren hit Cheetah. Oh yeah.
Oh, too much inside curve for Callum Kerrigan. He's going to go to the inside wall, and this rejoins what you were reacting to. Oh, I see what you were reacting to. They were trying to get to the pit lane. They're still trying to get to the pit lane.
Roman Fralla is in the pits themselves, which is that I think they've hit their BMW. I think they've hit that BMW. Coming back onto the track, bouncing off the wall. Yeah, that's one broken car.
What's going on there for our folks that maybe don't understand what's happening is was he sent by that other car? Oh, and yes, there was contact there. I wonder, did that BMW that was initially behind them, was that the second incident, and of course the third incident with, did you say that was Roman Fralla?
Yeah,
it might have, yeah, that was a third incident then. I'm pretty sure that was 3 incidents, and that's how badly it can go wrong into Cheetah. Just getting up over that curb, it's almost more beneficial to miss the curb entirely and to throw it into the ditch on corner exit than to fly up into the air after hitting the gigantic sausage curb in Cheetah. Meanwhile, inside the top 10, just inside the top 10, Matt Artem fighting off Bilski. Bilski looking down to the inside of the crocodiles. I think he's going to have him. Flashing of the lights, not happy with the way that move was undertaken, but the 71 is going to get through as well. Marcos is going to be able to slip through there as they come through Cheetah. And will there be a retaliation through Ingwe? No, there will not, but there might be another spot lost. That was the 140 of Neil Pimlott looking to get a spot. You lose one spot, you get put wide here in Sector 3. Sometimes you can lose a ton of spots. Neil Pimlott will not be able to make that move on Artem, but Artem was not happy with that initial pass from Bilski.
Yeah, I think Artem had a little bit of contact. The Lamborghini touching the passenger side, the right-hand side of the Audi. That's why we saw the flash of the lights. I think it's a little kiss, as we like to call it, and yeah, lost place to the 71 into Cheetah, which is not a move you really see.
Tell me what you think here, Ted. Was this fair? Oh, I see what he was flashing the lights for, the contact. Was that fair, though?
It can be. Obviously, Artem's already committed to the turn. Lamborghini's gone up to the inside and he's going a little bit faster, so he's going to go a bit deeper and a bit wider on the exit, so that's why they've touched. Might just be a racing incident because no one's really had a crash or whatever, but as I say, we'll look into that one. But yeah, just looking at the 71 of the Aston that did the move in Cheetah was not what I wasn't expecting it, Jesse. We don't see people make moves there unless someone's going really slow.
No, you really don't. Normally there is half a chance, but you really have to force your way in there, and it's ill-advised. Most of the time you don't see it. And meanwhile, we're seeing it again through the crocodiles, and now somebody's going to have to give as we enter Cheetah, and it's going to be Maltini who's going to give here, but not by choice. They hit the inside curb that shot them into the dirt, but still a better fate than Kerrigan, you must agree, as Victor Marcos trying for that top 10 spot. Remember, the 71 was able to capitalize on Artem and get a spot from them a lap ago, and now Vitter is on the back of Bilski for a top 10 spot. Somehow this Lamborghini has held on, but for how long? And you know what's interesting about this? Pierce and Daly, who's up in front of this battle, are unawares of what just happened behind them last night.
Yeah, they have no clue what's happening. They're just sort of doing their own thing at the minute. They're not really fighting anyone. Daly's 8 tenths behind the number 6. But that's silver. That's a car for overall position, but that's not points. Um, so yeah, Pierce is 1.6 and he's got a 3-second gap to a silver that's behind him in 10th. So they're just doing their own sort of thing at the minute. 52 minutes left of the race to go. 8 minutes in. Don't need to be going too hard at this stage in the race because it might not rain and there's no pit stop to change tyres. So you've got to make these tyres last.
Speaking of which, we do have weather forecasting in the top right corner of the screen. You can see that it's a lovely 19 degrees ambient. I think the South Africans would say that's slightly chilly, actually. Oh, one of the Lamborghinis off in the background. Was that Jelinek, who went big style coming down to the mine shaft? You don't normally see a car lose it like that. And that was indeed Jelinek. Something was very much up with that car.
So,
Mine shaft, not a place you normally lose it like that.
So they've lost it and instantly decided to put the garage door down.
Oh, that very unfortunate, very strange incident. That
Very strange,
again,
yes.
if you're coming through there and there's a tiny tap that upsets the car, yes, but by yourself, very, very odd. It is bumpy coming down mine shaft, mind you. But back to the weather.
Yes.
To 19 degrees, 26 degrees on the track, completely overcast here today. Track is optimum, but most importantly, for the next 30 minutes, no threat of weather. If we can get to the halfway point in this race, and that still says it's just going to be overcast, everybody will have a collective exhale. But if we don't get to that point, or if we don't get to that point and the weather changes, there's going to be a lot of nervous drivers and some strategy to play out.
Yeah, just date you on first and second. Vulcan did take first place really quickly in the start of this race and pulled a second gap on Martin, which I didn't really expect for their pre-quali times to be as close as it was. Yeah, Vulcan pulled that 1 second gap at the minute, and just looking at their best laps, as Martin just it's a very, very fast lap, both doing 41.3s, so they are really close. It's basically doing pre-quali all over again. So they are still close, even though it's a second difference. But Vulcan makes him a little mistake, and Martin's back in it again. And obviously we see Dario there. Don't forget Dario is 2.1, and Flanagan's half a second behind the number 8 there. So still pretty close. 10 minutes into the race, they're doing pretty well.
You know, there's something I was supposed to remember about the driver of the number 6, and I think I've just figured it out. I think it's that his name is pronounced Pavel, or Pavel, not Powell, as I pronounce it, because I don't think in his native language that there is a W. I think it's pronounced as a V. Kyalami, regardless, is going very well, still leading their class. They qualified on pole position, and this is exactly what they need to get themselves some points.
Oh,
Matt
no.
Ardom's had an off. Huge off for Matt Ardom. This is coming through Sunset. Just got a little bit too much here, and this is going to be straight on into the wall.
Oh dear, that could be race ending right there. That is such a heavy impact. That front right is probably not going to turn, yeah, and straight back to the pit lane for Arden. Now, does he carry on? He's going to be a lap down if he does, unfortunately, because it will put him back on the same lap he was just on. He did not complete that lap, so that's pretty heavy. That's definitely a broken car. He's obviously just got a bit wide on that exit of that fast right-hander and caught the grass, and it's very bumpy, and yeah, just lost the rear. But a lot of fighting going on.
Maltini's trying to go around the outside of Ingwe. No, they're not. Trying to sell them the dummy and go back up the inside, and I don't think they quite have the grunt to do that, as Pusina in front has somehow been able to hang on to that 5-second penalty for the 9 car, and I'm pretty sure we have that right here, and we do. Shout out to the Stewards, who, despite us not being here 2 weeks ago to cover the race, they were with us. They provided us our notes for the day, an added duty that not in their job description. So we definitely appreciate that. But 5 second penalty for car 90 for causing avoidable contact with car 999. That back on lap one, turn one, which I assume they mean turn two. The contact afterwards were all unfortunate racing incidents, deems the stewards. Warning for car 740 for causing avoidable contact with the 699. That's the two cars that were nose to nose that we saw in the second turn, or off the second turn rather. Warning for car 903 for an excessive dive bomb on lap one, turn 16. That versus the 999. No further action for a incident between the 999 and the 903, causing contact and taking both of themselves out. You don't see that every day. Racing incident on lap two between the 28 and the 903. Avoidable contact. Both drivers should have left more space, but no penalty.
Just looking back on what we've had so far, there we have Thomas Jelnick in the chat and saying, yeah, my wheel disconnected. So that's what happened to that Lamborghini, Jesse. That's why he went left.
That explains, yeah.
Out of mine shaft. So
yeah, that explains a lot. Thank you for reporting that, Jellick. I do appreciate that. We definitely appreciate that. It looked strange though, didn't it, Ted? You were going to say something earlier too about mine shaft, about the bumps.
Oh, it is so bumpy. If you've got like the Lamborghini or Audi and you've set it up a bit stiffer for these corners, you know, you can set a car up stiff, especially the McLaren. It's pretty stiff car as it is. Very bumpy, and if you don't have the setup just right, you know, for the speed, corners or whatever, and you come down mine shaft, it's horrible. In the wet, it's even worse because you've got to lift to sort of get the car around, and yeah, it doesn't look bumpy from the outside, but when you're inside and you've got the wheel in your hand, it's pretty nasty. Especially when you lose it. It's not the funniest of things, but you see the cars there, the rear end just bouncing around, and yeah, if your car bottoms out, that's it, you've gone. But yeah, as we found out, it's wheel disconnected, which is the worst thing in the world. But it's a very unfortunate, but hopefully see you in the next race. And the next thing was the Peregrine in that McLaren, with that incident when they come out cheater, well, they hit cheater, didn't they? Hit the wall, bounced off and came back. Didn't hold their brakes, didn't rejoin safely. So I'm waiting to see what you would say about that, because they hit the BMW, which then obviously made Prowler have to go into the pit lane. I don't think they were meant to go in the pit lane, because there is no pit requirements to serve. But I'm waiting to see what they say about it. But
meanwhile, yeah, this battle continuing between these two. There no love lost between the two of them, racing each other incredibly hard, but Altini has somehow been able to shake the 903 of Pusina for the time being, taking over a top 15 place spot. And of course, the most recent crash that started in Sunset but ended in the Walling Clubhouse Bend. It's a tale as old as time for this particular racetrack, ending up in the Walling Clubhouse Bend, a very fast sweeping right-hander leading to a very tight left-hander, which is Clubhouse. Cars in the wall. Matter of fact, I think that might be bingo. My last 5 races here I've called in a row have all had a car ended up retiring from going headfirst into the Clubhouse. Rather unfortunate. Jordan Daly in the 197 RRR Lamborghini. That's still weird for me to say. Doesn't usually drive a Lamborghini. And there would have been a time in his history where he wouldn't have even thought about driving said Lamborghini, but here he is in this championship and doing incredibly good work for it. 5-second penalty on the board for the 197. Ted, I'm quite curious what you have on that. As a matter of fact, we might get to see it here.
I think that was the incident. I'll read them out. Got a few here. That 2 turn 16 involved in the 28 in the 110. No further action. 28 moves across the track to go into the pit lane, causing contact with the car on track. 28 loses out, so further penalty not needed. So that was the one I was on about with Kerrigan and Frala. So nothing happened there. which is, you know, nice to know. It didn't seem that bad, but oh dear, talk about Carrigan. Commentator's curse happens again, Jesse. I don't know what's happened there. Yeah, it looked very technical there. Really much happened. Oh, here we go. John Daly proving fenders again with the first place silver. Wouldn't want to be doing that daily. Ruin someone's race, but anyway, back on with the
Jordan Daly side by
penalties.
side right here. That's not a great place. Going through the S's, going to be side by side. It's going to continue to contest this into Leacock. I don't think he has the line. Ted Edwards, back to you.
Everything's happening now. I start talking. Lap 310.3 involving the 197 and 131. The two cars you see on the screen right now. 5 seconds for car 197. 197 dives the 131 and causes contact while overtaking. We might see that again. So that might go up to a 10-second, who knows. Lap 310.16 involving the 414 and the 7. 5 seconds for car 7. Dives the 414 and causes contact while overtaking. Did I miss something again, Jesse?
No, just ignore me. Just continue, because otherwise you'll never get finished. I've been the person that you are right now in the past.
And then we got 3 racing incidents. Lap 410.1, the 140 and the 414 minor contact. Lap 410.16 involving the 90 and the 903 minor contact, and the lap 9 turn 9 903 and the 90 again minor contact. So we were caught up. Lap 11 turn 8 is another minor contact. That's the 197 and the 6 as we just saw. That was this I forgot how you say this guy's name, Jesse, but this is the 6 and John Daly again.
Linsky, yes, of course. And I will say this, Alpha, of course, the one handing us all the slips of paper. You can't let Alpha work you too hard, because they will. And certainly have a lot to go over tonight. But luckily, the vast majority of it, obviously racing no further action. But even beyond that, the penalties, quite minor. But I do worry, the very same thing you worry, might they start mounting 5-second penalties at some point. Jordan Daly, by the way, what I was squawking at a moment ago, Ted, was Daly in Ingwe almost ran up the back of the 131 of Thomas Pierce, and it was Daly essentially had to ditch his car to keep from running into the back of him as we come to the crocodiles again. It's very clear to me Daly can outbrake Thomas Pierce's 131 McLaren, but it doesn't seem to matter. Pierce seems to have the better position, but now he's going to look down to the inside. It's a big move. Both cars go skidding to the inside. Jordan Daly stuck in Ingwe. It's a very dangerous, inhospitable place to be stopped. I'm pretty sure I saw Pierce go around the outside. I'm unknown if they completely spun it around, but they definitely left the racing surface, and that's how that ended. And, well, you might wonder about there being more penalties, but Jordan Daly has returned to the garage.
Yeah, and that garage door has come firmly down and will not be opening again. Unfortunately, we do see that with Daly when stuff like this happens. Sort of just doesn't decide to carry on. But you know, that's the driver's choice at the end of the day. You know, I would have said carried on, but I'm not in his ear shouting, telling him, you know, get your ass moving, sort of thing. But he's racing for another team, so not my call. But yeah, it's unfortunate. We're down to 20
Let's take a look,
now.
Ted. Tell me your take of this.
Need to see that from a different camera angle, as we, you know, Pierce's car sort of covers, you know, Daly's car there. I can't really see if Daly was on that curb too much. But unfortunately, we can't see that camera that I want to see from behind, or maybe in front of it, looking back at the cars. But probably can have a little dig around and find it myself. But yeah, I don't know. It seems Daly might have gone through a bit too late and just got caught off with the front end of the rear end of Pierce's car. But yeah, it's one of them. But it's obviously what stewards will say. Obviously, Daly's not in this race anymore, but stewards can still put penalties on if they deem it fit.
Well, scary stuff happening in the mid pack, and that has undone some of the good work that Thomas Pearson Daly had done. But meanwhile, up near the front of the race, just to keep you updated, Bakirden still leads this in the 54 Lamborghini, and it was 1.1 seconds to Ulrich in second place. Keep in mind, Ulrich was on pole position by 7/100ths of a second. Absolutely nothing in it between the two of them. Bakirden was able to take that spot away early into the race, had more than a second's gap, but now that gap coming back down. Bakirden had the quickest lap. Now Ulrich has the quickest lap of the race. That's what the magenta number means. And meanwhile, racing inside the top five in very close proximity, Fonsa and Barzaghi, the championship leader in that Ferrari, trying to get up there, knowing that they will not be the championship leader leaving here today if they don't gain spots. Bakirden, who is second in that championship, might have been 10 points back, but just inside the top five, not good enough for Dario at this stage.
So I found some lovely footage of what happened with Daly, and by my looks of it, got to the 50 board and Daly went for the move on the inside, as we saw on the camera. There was enough room there. I think Piers could have moved over a bit. Obviously, all this happens really quickly. You know, I can pause and rewind the video as many times as I like, but it's what happens there and then. And Daly could have moved over more onto the curb, but they're the ones who are driving. They're the ones who make the decisions at that time. So
I tell you what we're going to do, Ted. You know how the BBC
go on.
has to show you both sides because it's
Yep.
publicly funded and all that? I'll do the opposite of that.
Go
Thomas
on.
Pierce did that on purpose because they were sending the message that you are not going to just dive in there and make a pass on me. And Pierce made a decision, Daly made a decision, rather unfortunately for the both of them, ended up in an accident. What on earth is that?
Don't know.
If you had to describe that to somebody,
Is that a flying unicorn pig?
dear lordy
a
me,
pigicorn.
we've seen some fantastic, the Zealous Motorsports car,
Wait, that's a bull.
Lucas Bilski, it looks to be some kind of unicorn angel steer on what is, oh my goodness, there's different perspectives of the unicorn angel steer. This is a fantastic paint job. I approve of this. Zealous Motorsport, cheers to you. Oh, looks like Neil Pimlott doesn't like it nearly as much as we do. A little bit of contact right there coming through the crocodiles.
Just noticed something. First and second in pro, Vulcan and Martin have 4 tenths apart from each other. Martin has caught up and has the fastest lap, as we say right now. I don't know when they got that quite a while ago. Actually, I thought 141.205 and Vulcan's 141.365, and Vulcan's times are 2 tenths slower last lap. Very slow lap from then, but they're still battling. They're 6.6 seconds in front of Flamger, so obviously the 2 faster pro cars are out there, and Flamger and Francesco from Monza. Oh, they switched places with Dario. I didn't know Dario went backwards, but yeah, so people mixing up here and there, and we've got 33 minutes of the race, and I see the weather, Jesse, is still cloudy. So I don't think that rain's coming.
Yeah, 3 more minutes and we'll know for certain what it's going to do at the end. But even now, you would think with 3 minutes, you wouldn't change anything. You would just grin and bear it because there's no way to gain that time back. Completely sideways there was that Audi of Kevin Boss trying to get by Kaneko in the 740. I thought very much the 31 of Boss was going to get around the 740. Not anything that Kaneko was going to allow to happen. And then Boss very nearly losing it trying to get through barbecue turn. Very close quarters racing. It's always like this here. You see this sort of action. You're seeing it right here where 2 cars seem to pair off and they duke it out throughout the entire race. It's like you grab a partner and you do battle. It's a bit like boxing. 7 rounds, if you will, or in our case, 1 hour, 60 minutes is the time you have to do. Pick a partner and spar, I guess, is the name of the game here. And this is exactly what you're seeing here with Rogers and Galinsky going at it side by side. Rogers, wait, is that, yeah, that has to be Galinsky, correct? Yeah.
It,
No, no, that's Barzaghi. Sure, no, I'm very
it's
confused.
Gillings. You're okay, Jesse. It's Gillingsty.
Obviously not. Yeah, that is Galinsky. Excuse me. I was at looking at Alex Rogers' car and wondering why that wasn't an Aston Martin. Is what happened there. Alex Rogers in the Ferrari,
Ah, yes.
for whatever reason, threw me for a loop. We get so used to seeing certain drivers in certain cars. We had that with Daly earlier, who, by the way, has made his feelings very much known in chat, how he felt about that incident. I have nothing else to add on that other than Daly has made his point. But yeah, I very much thought Rogers would have been in the Aston. Is not in the Aston. Threw me for a loop there, but Rogers able to hold on for that position. It's not a position that pays anything if Rogers loses it. Keep in mind, Galinsky is the leader in the silver class. Rogers doesn't lose points if the number 6 gets by him. It is sort of a point of pride, though, I would imagine, at this stake. But just like earlier with Pierce and Daly, you have to wonder, how much is it worth to fight?
Yeah, it's one of them. Gillingsty doesn't really need to fight as much. He's got half an hour left for the race, and he has a 13-second gap over Linsky and Pimlott. Obviously, the 7 has a 5-second penalty anyway, so they're going to drop back. So it's more like Pimlott and Philmott that Galinsky just needs to stay ahead of and just follow Rogers. Just use that slipstream. Just chill behind Rogers. Rogers might make a little mistake, and you just sit past and just have a switch of positions. But Rogers doesn't worry. He does want to, chase down Dario, the number 8 Ferrari, but 6.5 seconds off. I think Rogers, first race back in a good while in a big championship. I think he'd be happy with 6th place in pro.
Very well could be the case. Well, I mentioned just a moment ago that a lot of times here at Kyalami, you pick a dancing partner, and that's how it works. Well, sometimes you can dance with 3 people, and that's exactly what's happening here. Bilski is not particularly fond that Neil Pimlott and Rudy Philmalter are behind him. The only unfortunate part for Bilski here is they have that 5-second penalty. So even if Pimlott and Philmalter don't get by, both of these cars are still going to get that position. But of course, Neil Pimlott and Philmalter, they both have higher aspirations than that. They would like to at least the shot to gain the 5 seconds up to Marcos inside the top 9 cars. As a matter of fact, a dive here for Pimlott down the inside of the Crocodiles. I don't know if they have enough overlap here to take the inside. In fact, they don't, as they have to go back single file by the time they get to Cheetah Corner and then Ingwe. But all 3 of these cars very much in the wars. And give credit to Bilski. I know some people at home will be wondering, why doesn't Bilski just let them go if they're already going to have the position anyway? What does it matter? It's a racing thing. You're allowed to race. You're allowed to contest positions that you're on the same lap for, and they're doing that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Is it frustrating Pimlott and Philmalter? Absolutely. Ted, as a driver, does this frustrate you knowing the car in front of you has a penalty? You're quicker anyway. Just let me through. What's your driver perspective here? What's Neil Pimlott thinking?
Pimlott's definitely a little bit frustrated. I've been in these situations before where 5, 10, 15-second penalty or even a drive-through at some points, and it's just like, can you just sort of just move over and you can follow me through it? You got to either serve it or you're just gonna lose these positions anyway. Obviously Pimlott and Philmott would just want to catch Galinsky, and they possibly could, having a look at their fastest laps, and they could. Not saying they can, but they could make a good effort to catch up. Obviously Galinsky's behind Rogers at the minute, just sitting there, so it's just time being wasted. But the 7 has all right to be where they are and don't need to move over and just hold Pimlott and Philmore up as much as they like. But It is
Do,
very
do you get more
frustrating.
and more frustrated? Yeah, I was gonna say, but do you get
Yes,
more and more
yes.
frustrated as the laps go on, and they're obviously running defensive lines, and they're not giving up once you get there. You must get more frustrated every lap it happens. Does that
Oh
make your
yeah.
moves more aggressive?
Oh, yeah. As I was about to say, you just read my mind. Yeah, you'll see Pimlot probably try and make what you saw Daly was doing earlier, is trying to make those more dangerous plays, if you like, where penalties can come into place for a dive bomb then ends up in contact. And the worst case is the seven can spin round Pimlot, or even Fillmore if they get past Pimlot. They could get a bigger penalty. A drive through could come into place if the seven spins around, or gets tapped into a wall or whatever. So it's very dangerous play, but this is what racing is. Car in front either slower or has a penalty and is slower, and the car behind is so frustrated because they are faster and there is a race at hand.
So, speaking of interesting things, we got an interesting notification from the stewarding team. That incident we saw between Daly and the 131, that has come back into a no further action. The 197 dives the 131, causing contact and spinning themselves out. No further action deemed necessary. Ted, fair?
Yeah, I would say so. As Daly was the one that did the move. I'm possibly late, but then it is the last corner of the track, and it is coming out of Cheaton, and you got to make a move. It's quite a small little straight, uh, coming up to the last corner. So Daly could be in the wrong. Maybe he's maybe he's in the wrong. Maybe he's in the right. But he's the one who came off worse and was the one facing the wall, and the one that decided that was the end of their race. And Pierce was the one that got off lightly on that occasion, and probably wasn't even half a second of damage caused to the car.
Here's probably thinking, what is he doing at this point? But I will say, at some point, you got to go for a move. You can't be, in my mind, as a racer, you can't be too hard on that, because you know if you're the slower car that they're going to make a move and they're going to get more aggressive. I think that genuinely, I feel like that was the unstoppable force and the immovable object that came together there, rather unfortunately, the end of that. Speaking of, these are all just immovable objects. Everybody line astern here, all fighting for a top 10 spot. I say they're fighting for a top 10 spot. They're not. Bilski has that 5-second penalty, meaning that Pimlot is by de facto P10 right now. And this man, Rudy Philmalter, is in P11, because they're all within 5 seconds of the number 7 Lamborghini, but still unable to make that move. Pimlot, not really as aggressive recently as I would have expected them to be, but maybe that's simply because they're not as close as they were a few laps ago.
Yeah, just looking at their lap times, the seven at 42.8 last lap, Pimlot at 43.1, and then Fillmore at 42.6. So times are bouncing around. Maybe they don't want to burn their tires up too much. There's no pit stop to change. And 26 degrees on track, 19 ambient. So can they get them cooled off if they push the car too much, try and make a move and whatever? And it's just one of those things. You don't want to risk destroying your tires. They might be fine now, and you can push them for a good 3, 4, 5 laps, overtake the guy in front, and then 10 minutes to go, and your tires are just nothing. They're just sliding. Next minute they're right up behind you and trying to dive you. So it's one of those things that you got to think of going forward for this race is, can my tires last to the end of the race?
Ooh, speaking of, Neil Pimlott went wide in sunset, and now Rudy Philmalter closes in on Neil Pimlott. This is basically for 10th place as they run. I know they're 11th and 12th, and that is quite confusing, but do bear with me. This is actually for 10th place. I love the Flying Lizard green and blue affair the Dropping the Hammer 999 Porsche has, and we were riding on board the front splitter of that Porsche. Very much a welcome home to Rudy Philmalter, a proud South African racing driver in his own right. back home this particular weekend. It always feels nice. Can I ask you that an Englishman? Can I ask genuinely, when you're racing at Donington, Alton Park, or Silverstone here in ACC, does it give you a little extra shot in the arm as comparative to running somewhere else?
Oh yeah, you're like you want to try and give a win or get a good finishing position at your home track. Obviously, I've been to Donington uh, a few times now, and hopefully be going again in October for the British GT final. Um, Saw that last year, and it was such a good race. It was a wet race and a dry race, so it was pretty fun. But yeah, I've been there. I raced there on ACC. I commentate there. Uh, I just want to do good there. But yeah, it definitely does give you that extra oomph of focus, adrenaline, and you just yeah, do a good job.
I can't agree more. I have the same thing every single time I go to Watkins Glen. It is a very much a prideful moment for me. First of all, it's a lovely racetrack. I think talk about Kyalami being in most people's top 10's favorite racetracks in the world. I would argue Watkins Glen is probably in there somewhere as well in most people's top 10. It's such a lovely track. It's a rhythm track. It's an old school circuit, and if you make a mistake, you get punished for it. All of the classic things racing drivers love to have. And oh, by the way, if you are also going to Donington Park this fall for the race, Ed Edwards will be signing autographs. I've just been told.
Yeah, if you can find me,
Ted, if somebody came up and wanted an autograph, would you?
I'll be asking, how do you know what I look like? Yeah, I probably
Well, I
would.
mean,
Yeah.
you're in the RCI media thing, right?
Nope.
I mean, you're a streamer, Ted. They know what you look like.
Shut up. But no, I'd probably sign it. Yeah. Why not?
All you have to do if you want to find Ted is find the handsomest guy there. That's Ted Edwards, and that's all you have to do. The battle for the lead had gone back out. I hadn't mentioned it in a little while simply because it went back out to just about 1 second, but it's come back in. I don't know if Ulrich had a bad couple laps, maybe overheated the tires, something like that. But never the mind, it's coming back in. I thought McKiernan had it in the bag. Talked very early on under the pace lap about some cars are going to be comers, some are going to be goers here. They're going to handle differently. We'll be getting late into the race when the fuel burns off. That might not be something all the drivers have a great grasp on of how to set up the car late into a race like this in these conditions. But I thought that was what was happening with the lead two. It isn't it at all. Ulrich still holding on, filling up the mirrors of McKiernan in the lead of this race. Vulcan looking to take the championship lead away here in race number 2.
Yeah, just a little update on first and silver as well. Galinsky did get past Rogers. Not sure how, but has pulled a second gap already. So Galinsky just showing that probably up there with the pros rather than the silvers. But have to see. Maybe this is one of their stronger tracks. I know it's one of my stronger tracks. It's one of my favourite tracks as well. Yeah.
I'm just shocked by that. I'm shocked that out of all of them, what would you say your strongest track is in? Oh, let me guess, Donington.
Ooh, yeah. I think Donington is now my strongest, followed by Kyalami. I've done 224 hours here. One in the Audi Evo, the first Evo. And then I did Lamborghini here a year ago now. Very fun, very nice. Would do again. And then I think Brands Hatch would be my third.
Oh,
just because it's a really fast track, small, fast, hard to overtake. Never stop concentrating.
Yeah, it's very deceiving, Brands. It looks like one of those tracks where, from a shape perspective, it looks very simple indeed. And there's no particularly tricky corners, or at least that's what it would appear. But as it turns out, almost every single corner on that track's tricky. I would also argue, Ted, for me, Brands Hatch is my best track, rather begrudgingly, because I nearly have a heart attack every time I drive that particular race circuit. It can go wrong in a hurry there. There's almost no corner that is free, as they say. And I think that's why it is my best track. It's simply, I'm so acutely aware of not making a mistake that I let other people do that for me. I would almost argue out of all the tracks in ACC, it's the most amount of passing I've done where I haven't actually had to make a pass.
Yeah, I'll probably say the same as well. Yes, see, it is a fun track, and if you've never driven it, have a drive. It's a pretty good track. It's not hard to learn, but it's hard to find the good line. Hard to get a good lap time every lap. It is a bundle of fun, and we do run it in quite a lot of our championships when we can.
We certainly do. You know, I'm quite curious now. We talked about favorite tracks and tracks that we think that we're best at. Of course, it's not just us two in the box. We're the only two that you hear, but we always have our third party, Mr. Stewie, behind the camera. Stewie, what is your favorite track in ACC, and which track do you think you're the best at? And keep in mind, Ted, his answer is going to be skewed because he only drives the Porsche. He's disagreeing that he hasn't driven the Porsche in months, and
That is true.
yes, that's a valid point. It's point well taken. Alton Park, favorite track. One of the only people in the world that would ever say that. Do you think he might be the first German to have ever said that?
Probably, but I see where he's coming from. It is a good track. It's, again, like Brands Hatch, not an easy track to overtake on, but it is pretty fun. It's very, very tight. Like you can just fit two cars side by side, but it is fun.
Can I share something with you as a simple American? I look at three different British tracks that are quite similar as different modes of easy, medium, and hard. You've got Brands Hatch, which is the easiest, okay, and you've got Alton Park, which is medium, and then you have Cadwell, which is hard mode. Is that a fair assessment?
That's fair.
God, I love Cadwell so much. Cadwell, not in ACC, of course, but I go on about Cadwell because I love it. And it's such a fantastic race, and you would only need to race the Mini Cooper Works Cup cars there to appreciate the brilliance of Cadwell.
You like a Mini Cooper?
Oh,
Can
absolutely.
say that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Mini Cooper's fantastic cars, fantastic racing machines as well. I know a lot of people like to race Caterhams at Cadwell. That's also very fun. Anything that you can get the tail out of that makes not a lot of power, very fun around that particular racetrack. And got a little bit of everything, high-speed sections. You go into the forest for a little bit. It's a classic British racing circuit. Happy to still have a lot of those. And, of course, we don't have Cadwell. We definitely have Alton Park. And that was a strange choice by Stewie there that I did not expect. I expected anything but that. That was very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Let's just say. Oh, what we got? We got 13 and a half minutes left of this race, and things have just sort of settled down. No one's really moved around positions. I did see the number 5 in 20th is in pit lane. I'm not sure why. I think they were the ones that had the 5-second penalty earlier on. No, they had the drive-through earlier on, I think, for being out of position on the formation lap coming up to the start-finish line to start the race. Not sure what's happened there. We'll probably find out from someone at some point, but yeah, it's sort of simmered down, Jesse. We're just watching people follow people.
Mr. Batty Stone in chat, I think you're very familiar with that individual, has made some comments regarding your preferences in life.
Okay.
I have no further comment on that. But
I chose to
Kedwell is
ignore it.
good when you're rallying it, and also referencing Mr. Rogers finding some sort of substance that may not be foreign to him. Speaking of Alex Rogers, the Ferrari Learner Drivers 119 Ferrari. You see a lot of drivers doing this nowadays, and it's a bit like follow the leader. Of course, George Boothby has been championing the Ferrari for a while and has openly admitted on his own streams a few times that the Ferrari might be his favorite car. And obviously, I think he's a Ferrari fan to begin with. So you add that all together. And he's had great success with it, of course. Won our Friday championship with it most recently. And Rogers jumping on the Ferrari train there and doing it justice, I might add, today, the second highest running one. One of the two inside the top 10. Still hasn't been able to get by Galinsky, though. And I wonder if that's almost slightly by design, not wanting to risk it today, feeling it not worth it, or maybe just not quite having the pace to get by them. Meanwhile, the battle for the lead back on. Ulrich qualified on pole, but was overtaken by the 54. And now Ulrich, who was more than a second behind earlier in the race, has caught all the way back up here in the final 11 minutes. Very interesting times. Welcome to RCI, by the way. It always goes apart in the middle. It always comes back together in the end.
And just looking at Linsky again, and he's pulling out his lead more and more every lap. Just a bit over the number 7. That is in 10th place, second in silver. Obviously, we thought they were holding Pimlott and Fillmore up, but both them cars are second apart from each other. They were very close beforehand, but I think that times are just sort of simmered out. Like I said before, Jesse, maybe they've just pushed their tyres too hard, and 10 minutes left of the race now. Is this 10 minutes of, oh no, my tyres are got no grip anymore and I need to just keep the car on the track?
I think you might be right. Remember, Fonsa passed Dario Barzaghi earlier on in the race. That was some 20 minutes or so ago, but Barzaghi was able to hang with the 93 Porsche for a while, but they have since fallen off 2.1 seconds. I'm confident to say if Bekirden wins this race, which again, still in doubt as we ride on board the rear wing of Vulcan Bekirden in the 50 for the Imperial Racing machine, looking back at Martin Ulrich in the 41 Aston. This is the battle for the lead, but if Bekirden does win this race and Barzaghi looks like they're set to finish inside the top 5 in 5th, I'm pretty sure Vulcan's going to take the lead of this championship after 2 rounds. And do bear in mind, I made an error earlier. I said that there was a drop round. Ed Edwards corrected me. There is no drop round here in Night Owl. This is all to play for. All the rounds count the same. No drop round in this channel.
Yeah, if you miss a round, having to sign out or something happens, then well, that's gonna be tough on you to get those points back, especially if driver that's either behind you or is in front of you does every single race. It's going to be a lot harder, and especially for these two at the front of the pack that are charging away with 10-second lead over Flamger. There's no challenge there, fortunately. But if these two carry on doing every single race from now, then one of them's gonna miss out.
Harry in chat has also pointed out something, a blast from the past. We're on season 11 of Night Out, the longest running series here on RCI TV. But way back in season 2, Ferrari won both the drivers and the team's championships in that season. That was so long ago. That was literally years ago at this point. But right you are, and it goes to show you what is old is new, or what is old is new again in this case. And very interesting. A lot of people discovering the Ferrari. It's become incredibly viable. Several drivers have shown it to be that. Barzaghi, of course, came in leading the championship, dominated round number one here of season 11. Hasn't quite gone their way today. Rogers back, of course, doing their bit for the Ferrari charge, and very interesting, all things considered. But this I find to be the most interesting. Martin Ulrich on the prowl, the McLeod Racing Team 41. What does Ulrich need to do here, Ted, to get by the 54, to repass the 54 and get this win? Time's ticking away.
Ulrich just needs to focus on getting every single corner right. They're sticking there with the 54, but they making small mistakes. We saw, I think, last lap or lap before, coming into T1, they just went too wide. And, that might not mean too much, but that's a tenth or two that they've lost, and they've had to gain back. So just getting corners better than 54 is all that counts at this stage. We've got 6 minutes 10 seconds left, and there's half a second, if that, in this race. So what's that, about 3-4 laps or so? Difficult, but I think Ulrich can do it.
By the way, Lucas Sano in the number 5, who has had a nightmare of a start of the race, is 9 laps down. They're sitting in the pit lane. They have to finish 80% of the leader's distance to get points for the race. But how many positions are getting points? Just the top 15, but there's not that many silver cars. So the limiting factor in them getting points today is, have they done 80% of the total distance? It's close right now. I would probably argue they haven't done enough to get points, but then again, my math has been wrong before. I'll tell you something else I've been wrong about before. I'm going to say it again. Doesn't look like much lap traffic in front of Bekirden and Ulrich for the lead battle of this race, but it only takes one minor slip up for Ulrich to find a way past. Rudy Philmalter still behind Neil Pimlott, who is still behind Bilski for a top 10 spot. Bilski has that 5-second penalty. They've somewhat clawed out a little bit of a lead. There was absolutely nothing in it a while ago, and now 2 seconds in it. Then you mentioned that some people are falling back, maybe ran their tires a little bit too hard. Maybe Pimlott did the exact same that you mentioned, trying to keep up with Bilski to get by. Now, Rudy Philmalter, who has not used up their tires, riding in the third place position of this train of cars, now has a little bit more to fight with here in the dying embers.
Or it could be like what you said earlier about the setups and fuel. Maybe the cars set up better for more fuel, heavier fuel, rather than towards the end of the race where the car gets a lot lighter. Maybe it's not as grippy as it once was. The weight puts more pressure on the tires. I mean, you use a lot more of the tires on more fuel. So maybe on less fuel, not getting that grip out of that BMW that Pimlott really needs, and that Porsche is just catching up to him, which is less than half a second now. If you look at these two, got a bumper to bumper, Jesse. Ulrich, I think Ulrich can do this. Like I've said, 3/10 now, just less. Just needs to find that gap. Like, it's very hard. I can't even say his last name. His first name, Vulcan. Just needs to go on the defensive. Get those inside lines, get by apexes, but not go too slowly, else Ulrich could easily get a slingshot out of the corner. It's a very difficult thing to do, is hold someone up.
Here it is for you, folks. Just about 2 laps left in the race. Vulcan Bakirden leads this race, was second place by 7/100ths of a second. Martin Ulrich qualified on pole position, but was overtaken some 20 minutes or so into this race. Bakirden had enjoyed more than a second lead at one point. Ulrich gained that back, lost most of it again in the last 15 minutes, but has gained it all back again. What can Martin Ulrich do to get by Vulcan Bakirden for the win of this race? The Imperial Racing team and the McLeod team going head to head here for a win. And this is doubly important for Bakirden, in my opinion, because if he loses the win of this race, that will be Barzaghi and Bakirden just about dead level on points. But if Vulcan is able to win this race here, Vulcan will undoubtedly have a little margin for error in the championship points. Here is some of the lap traffic, probably the last lap car they'll have to deal with. How is the BMW going to handle this? And that's by going completely wide and not getting involved in an international incident here in South Africa. That is brilliant driving. My hats off to the BMW. Was that Roman Frawler? I'm unsure, but it certainly wasn't Roman Frawler. But nevertheless, my hats off to them as we have a battle on our hands. There should be one more lap after this, as they should get to the line before the clock strikes 0.
Yeah, you're right. One more lap after this, and just note something with Phil Motor and Pimlott. Phil Motor's got past, and Pimlott's 5 seconds behind them. Phil Motor is 5 seconds behind Bilski, so that race there has changed drastically for second place in silver. Brilinski in the 7 might still hold it with that 5-second penalty.
By the way, that was Pusina who got out of the way, so hats off to the 903 for driving an incredibly respectful race. 39, 38 ticks of the clock left in this race. The white flag, last lap of the race is out, and Vulcan has a little bit of a lead here. Too big for Ulrich to make a dive down into turn number 2. They try it anyway as they're nose to tail as they thunder up the Jukeski sweep and into barbecue for the last time.
This is when Ulrich's adrenaline is going through the roof. They are so focused not to mess up, because Vulcan can mess up. That's the thing you got to think about. If I keep it clean, they can mess up, and maybe I can get into that little window in the inside, or maybe around the outside if you're lucky. Very hard to do, but inside will look the best chance. But we'll have to wait and see. Now, they don't want to do a send, Jesse. That's the thing, isn't it? We say they don't want to do Ted send. We want to try and keep it clean, because you don't want to get a penalty after the race, because after the race will drop you positions.
Defensive line by Bakirden there. Ulrich taking the normal line. I know that didn't look like it, but it was very defensive by Vulcan, but able to maneuver their way into a little bit of a lead. They ran nose to tail just about this entire race, within striking distance. But how big of a lunge might you see out of them as they come through Cheetah, or come through Crocodiles and now Cheetah for the final time? Any move in Ingwe? I don't think so. Too far back. Vulcan Bakirden is going to win the second round of season 11 of Night Owl. And what a brilliant race from second place. And Ulrich will take home second by just about that much less than 4/10. Timothy Flamger, the Alpha Sim Sport driver. We didn't talk about the Audi at all today. My apologies to Timothy Flamger. They're going to come home a brilliant and quiet P3, a well-deserved podium. Bonsa in 4th. Dario Barzaghi will come home 5th. It was a brilliant fight he had as well. The Team Ballas car. But unfortunately, it will be a bit of a gap now and a close fight. Championship fight confirmed here in Night Owl Season 10. Bielinski comes through for number 1 in the silver class and 6th overall, matching his car number. Alex Rogers gets a 7th place. Thomas Pierce, even after all the controversy, 8th place for him. Marcos in 9th. And Bilski in 10th place in the number 7, second in their class, and Rudy Philmalter, the South African, on the podium for silver.
Yeah, Bilski does get second place in silver with that 5
Oh,
second
wait!
penalty.
Oh my God, it's so close. I forgot about the penalty, Ted, but it
Mm.
almost mattered 7/10. But yes, indeed, just about gets it done.
Yeah, so I think Fillmore and Pimlott had like a coming together or something. Um, and that's why Pimlott is behind Fillmore by about 9.2 seconds. That's a massive gap from what we saw earlier was a second. So
Oh, I think we have it here,
here
Ted.
we go. What we sort of missed 'cause we were following the leaders, and they just had that was just tiny taps. I'm not sure why Pimlott fell off, but they see Bilski does get that second place in silver. Congratulations, with a 5 second penalty, very well done.
Results of the race confirmed, and I believe an additional warning for the 999 Rudy Philmalter as they came to the line is the last penalty report I have, but of course, just a warning. Volkan Bakirden wins the race in the 54 Lamborghini. Martin Ulrich in second place in the 41 Aston Martin. Timothy Flamker, your podium in the pro class. And just to confirm in silver, Galinsky wins it in his return to Night Owl. Did not make, apparently, race number 1, but has showed up with a vengeance today. Bilski will get second, only just over Rudy Philmalter in third place for the silver class. That was an incredible race. It was very close. There was contact off the start. It spread apart, but just like it always does here in Night Owl, it came back together. The only thing I have for him, Ted, is it's Night Owl, baby.
It's now, baby, yeah, and Ulrich did an amazing job to just stay within 4 tenths at the end there with Volkan. Getting that fastest lap, the speed juice fastest lap, which gives them points. So that would take them from the 29 they would have got for second up to 31. Volkan's gets 34, so there's only 3 point difference, which is not bad. To be fair, I can't really moan at that after the race they've had.
You certainly cannot. What a race we had. And of course, we'll be back with you in the future for more coverage of Night Owl Season 11. Cannot confirm nor deny if we'll be here for round number 3, but we'll be here for round number 4 regardless. It is nice to be back doing Night Owl races, and it certainly has not disappointed. A close championship race in pro. What has Galinsky's win done to the standings in silver? We'll just have to wait and find out. It is going to be one of those seasons. I have a feeling it's going to come down to it. And of course, you can join this mid-season. You can sign up for any season that RCI does mid-season simply by doing your pre-qualifying the week of the race before that race. You can join us for race number 3 in 1 week's time. Just go to racerci.com, sign up, figure out how to do the pre-qualifying this coming week, and we can see you on the track this Saturday night. That's the same for every series that we've got going on. Still time to sign up for the ending of the Monday Championship coming up. And of course, all of our championships still yet to start. You can sign up and start the season on time. The Thursday Championship, season number 10, as they're calling it, starts this Thursday, and the Friday Champ starts up this Friday as well. The GT Sprint Challenge returns for season 8. All of that information on racerci.com, RACERCI.com. And of course, we've got other events coming up. The 4-hour Porsche versus Porsche race. 4-hour race. I think that's October the 22nd. That race happens on, and then the October 2-hour race in just a couple of weeks' time as well. That's a GT3 race. The Wednesday Team Championship. The Team Championship has finally returned after a long hiatus, taking up the Wednesday spot. That championship starting October 5th. If you have a friend, you want to enter a team championship with driver changes and all of that, that season starts on the 5th as well. We would love to have you on the racetrack. And don't worry about what your skill level or mastery is. We have splits for you no matter what. And a big thank you, of course, to our partners that make this race and every race possible. AK Informatica for providing our server solutions. Driver 61, you can get 25% off your driver coaching by going to driver61.com and using our discount code. Driver coaching can make you a faster and better racing driver, and it certainly worked for a lot of the admin team here at RCI. Trust me, they're no longer an embarrassment to sim racing. And fanatec.com. You can use our affiliate link when making purchases of quality sim racing hardware at fanatec.com. Doesn't cost you a thing, and it tells them that we sent you. It helps us with things like server cost when you use it. Thank you very much for doing so. Ted Edwards, race number 2 of Night Owl Season 11. It's been great to be back here. Your takeaways from today.
Yeah, just some amazing racing we've seen today. Not many incidents. There's a few penalties, and only 5 seconds, which is probably one of the best ones we've had for a while. Normally, when we get penalties, it's a bit few drive-throughs, 10 seconds, 15. So really, really good racing. Just minor contacts. Yeah, that big incident at the start of T1, but that was five car wide going into there as we predicted. But really, really good racing through all drivers in both classes. So hope to see that again in the next round.
Absolutely agree 100%. The championship well and truly on for Night Owl Season 11. We wouldn't have it any other way. Our next broadcast on RCI TV, the Monday Championship. This Monday, continuing here, and of course, the APAC Championship, the Piston Cup, continuing over on Twitch. The Preacher very much still, I think that's the final race, in fact, this week for the Piston Cup. You can view that race over on Twitch on the Preacher's channel. And starting Thursday, the Thursday champ back and the Friday champ back. And hopefully we'll see you back here next Saturday for race number 3. Falls here, racing action all over the place here for RCI. Thank you very much for watching. We ask that you like, subscribe on the way out. We're less than 10 subscribers away from hitting 4,200 subs on the channel. We'd love it if you could help us out with that. And in the meantime, I've been Jesse Lee, joined by Ted Edwards and Stewie behind the cameras. On behalf of everyone here, the admins, the stewards, the broadcast team, thank you for watching. Have a good night.